I somehow managed to beat Silent Hill F before it even officially released, as I beat it in 9 hours and 18 minutes this past Wednesday. Not crazy, as the game is beatable in under 9 or 10 hours, but still, I will say I do want to talk about it because I really did enjoy my time with this game. While I did begin this channel talking a lot about JRPGs, I do want to kind of continue to expand out more on the different things that I enjoy or anything that I just feel compelled or passionate about in gaming. And I do want to touch on the issues around this game with the PS5 Pro version, as after the Digital Foundry video, I definitely got turned off from purchasing the game on the PS5. So I'm going to have 4 parts to this video: a spoiler-free section with my impressions that are also spoiler-free, my thoughts on the PS5 Pro performance of this game, a spoiler portion that you can skip if you'd like to, and of course my final overall thoughts on the game. So this is the first Silent Hill game that I've played in a while, as last year I skipped out on the Silent Hill 2 remake, and also you had a lot going on in gaming at the time, as Zelda Echoes of Wisdom came out not too long before that, and then you had Metaphor ReFantazio and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero that came out right after the remake. And despite growing up loving Silent Hill, and the fact that I even can remember begging my mom to take me to see the movie when I was younger, I still was unsure whether I wanted to try this game out and play it. I'm really glad I did though, as this game consumed my life and just engulfed me in the world that it takes place in for over 2 days, and I do personally believe that this game is much better than some reviewers are giving it credit for. There actually are some very high review scores and some that even give it a perfect score, but personally there are also some ones that I just disagree with and I feel are way too low. The main protagonist of this game is Hinako, and she is the youngest protagonist in any Silent Hill game to date, as she is a teenage high school student. Hinako faces years of trauma due to family issues, and quite literally the drama and the other things that go down take place only 30 minutes in, as things begin to spiral when she begins to take a walk out to her house and tells her parents that she's going to see her friends. The 1960s setting allows a lot of different commentary and just different exploration of different things such as sexism, gender roles, and abuse. Through flashbacks and journal entries, we see Hinako's conflicted sense of identity, as well as the abuse that she saw from her father and what her father did to her mother. The story certainly does a good job of showing rather than telling. Many scenes leave you uneasy just from what they visually or implicitly present to the gamer. And of course, there's no heavy exposition needed. The writing is strong and paired with an atmospheric score that really heightens the emotions and really leaves the gamer uneasy in so many scenes. And I think the gameplay is very solid, even if it leans simpler. The combat is basically based on light versus heavy attacks plus a focused attacks mode. It has some Souls-like elements in terms of stamina, dodging attacks, etc., and equipment, item systems, including Omamori, that provide buffs such as health recovery after defeating an enemy. The simplicity definitely can be a flaw in many people's eyes, but I don't think it bothered me just because of how strong the atmosphere as well as the story truly were in this game. And honestly, I think the atmosphere and the story shine even brighter as a result. This isn't a revolutionary horror game, but it's certainly a great base and a great foundation for Konami to build off of in the future. And I'm curious how Silent Hill titles are going to differ in the future, especially since they're going to have multiple different development teams working on these games, as Silent Hill F is developed by Neobars Entertainment. Then of course Bloober Team worked on Silent Hill 2, the remake that was just done, and they're working on the Silent Hill 1 remake. And then you have Screenburn that is working on Silent Hill Townfall, while Annapurna and Konami publish it. So I'm very interested how Konami is going to be able to take this, or really just, allow Neobars to take this great outing and make a new game in the future, even beyond what they did with Silent Hill F, and honestly, I'm very excited to see what that would be. And honestly, I think it's just take each development studio's work for what it is, and it's a different, like separate them from one another, because while from everything I have heard, the Silent Hill 2 remake was very good, and I'm very interested to see how 1 turns out, like Bloober Team's performance just in terms of the gameplay and a lot of the combat definitely looked much different, and that's obviously understandable since it's a remake, but still, you kind of have to separate each development team's games from one another. Now I want to get into the performance and visuals portion of the video and just everything talking about the PS5 Pro and whatnot. Now I played this on my Series X rather than my PS5 Pro after I saw the Digital Foundry video that came out a day before the early access period for this game. And just from the visual strobing that Digital Foundry went over in that video, as well as the grass, pulsing imagery, etc., I wanted a smoother experience, even if that meant sacrificing the frame rate, which obviously it was about 60 FPS I believe on the PS5 Pro, and it went down to 30 on the Series X. And I will say, even on the Series X, I do think the environments and the character models are still very well done and they look beautiful, and I think this is a very good looking game regardless of where you play it. And overall, it didn't ruin the experience for me. And also, I did decide to get on the Series X because I did want to quote unquote go to New Zealand to play this game a bit early. If you know, you know. So the Series X version had that added benefit. Maybe I should have waited a bit, or waited, 6 to 8 hours longer to play it, you know what I mean, on my PS5 Pro and everything. But just from all the different things that Digital Foundry went over, I decided why not just pick it up on my Series X. So now I do want to get into the spoiler section. So if you don't want to be spoiled by anything, you definitely can skip ahead, and I'll give you that little bit of time to just skip off of the video at this point. I think the fantasy versus reality stuff that really gets highlighted with Hinako, and all of the stuff that goes on where it's basically like seeing two completely different people, I think really adds a very interesting layer to this game. And seeing the rituals that turn Hinako into the monster that she becomes really is a gross and kind of unsettling thing to see happen over time and over the course of your playtime with this game. And I think honestly it should be leaving most gamers uneasy, because I would say I pretty much have a pretty good stomach, or I could pretty much stomach a lot of the stuff that you would see like that, especially in like horror, body horror, gory horror, etc. And this was definitely something that left me uneasy, especially that first ritual scene with the saw and Hinako sawing her arm off, and what was essentially her giving her arm in marriage to the fox mask guy. It was crazy stuff. And the first ritual scene, as well as the other two, really left me uneasy, but it's stuff like that I think really had me sitting there for a second and trying to like process everything and all that. And early on, Hinako gets many warnings to not trust Fox Mask, and you see about halfway through the game, I feel like it was, that their first ritual happens, that Hinako kind of like that kind of comes true, kind of comes to fruition why she shouldn't have trusted Fox Mask. But at the same time, this is somebody that she's obviously going to marry and does marry in the game. She gives her arm in marriage. We see the whole wedding ceremony at one point in, the fantasy world, or the dreams that she's having. And I think that really plays a big part, as we know, in the whole self-identity aspect and stuff like that. And we do eventually see it come to a head at the end of the game, when the final boss battle is Hinako's fantasy version of herself, the monster she's become, versus the real life Hinako. And the game really leans into body horror as well as psychological horror elements, such as societal pressures that Hinako faces, such as beauty standards and gender roles in 1960s Japan, as well as internal and external identity, among many other things. And Ryukishi 07's writing really stands out to me. There's a lot of moments that are metaphorical, a lot that are implication heavy, and really let the player determine what's going on rather than telling them outright, and that's something that I really enjoy in a lot of art and media, and Ryukishi 07 really did a great job with his storytelling and just the writing overall in this game. So I do want to give my final thoughts now, and I will say, as of this recording, the game is sitting at an 86 on Metacritic, which obviously is not a bad score. That's a very good score, and I'm sure many studios, including even Konami and NeoBars with this game, I'm sure they're very happy with an 86. But personally, I do think it deserves to be a bit higher. I mean, my personal score is a 9 out of 10. I mean, it's not much of a difference. It's 4 points higher it would be, because that would be a 90, but still. And while we're seeing very good reviews right now from Hades 2 and Ghost of Yotei, which they're both higher, of course, than this game, I will say this game really is going to finish the year as one of my favorites. And I do think I'm going to enjoy both Hades 2 and Ghost of Yotei, but I think the biggest thing for me is this world of 1960s Japan that the game really builds up really entranced me, and I think the fantasy versus reality setting and the whole dynamic really appealed to me. And honestly, I think Ryukishi 07's writing, like I said, I thought was very well done, and this was a game that really left an impact on me, and I enjoyed it. And like I said, it engulfed me for 2.5 days or 2.25 days while I was playing it. So as mentioned, I'd personally give it a 9 out of 10. And honestly, I do think some critics are being a bit harsh on the game, maybe specifically the combat. But for me, the story, atmosphere, visuals, and the music are all so top-notch that while I personally did really enjoy the combat, I think maybe looking at it as a bit simplistic doesn't really bother me, as it was overall a great experience and a great outing from NeoBars and Konami with this game. Like mentioned, without a doubt, one of my favorite games of 2025 so far. And if you like horror, psychological tension, and games that really dig into trauma and identity, then this is without a doubt a game worth playing for you. And even if you don't enjoy every part, such as the combat or the pacing, etc., there's a lot here to appreciate and a lot to enjoy. And like I've said on this channel many times, Final Fantasy, Yakuza, and Resident Evil are probably my 3 favorite game series. So for me, being such a big Resident Evil fan, it's not a shock that I enjoyed this game so much. much. But personally, I think even if you're not a huge Resident Evil person, somebody that's super big into the game, you will still enjoy this game, because I think, like I said, there was so much to appreciate about this game, and I easily recommend it. So yeah, with that out of the way, I want to know down in the comments section, have you played Silent Hill F yet? If you have, how did you enjoy it? Or just let me know what your favorite Silent Hill game is, because this is certainly looking like it might be my favorite in the entire franchise. If you enjoyed the video though, then drop a like, and if you're new or not subbed yet, then definitely hit that subscribe button, because I got reviews, retrospectives, and also different gaming breakdown videos that I'm excited to upload very soon. Thank you for watching, and I am out. Peace.